Tell me about a time you successfully built up a technical champion at the customer's organization, and what techniques did you use to get them to become that technical champion? Hey everyone, this is Mohammed again, back here with another mock solutions architect interview, part of our solution architect video series. Again, I'm a former solutions architect from Salesforce and Dropbox, and once again, I'm joined with my good friend Miles Cabrera. Miles, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself to the crowd.
Yeah, so nice to be back with you here again, Mohammed. Just to give some background on myself and really Mohammed as well. Both got into Salesforce at the same time through a cohort, specifically an early in career program, and we were destined to become technical architects. Didn't know what a technical architect was, what sales engineering, solution engineering was, or a CRM for that case. I'm going to work for Salesforce. Didn't know what that was. But we slowly learned and we slowly became very proficient technical architects. So it's been some time at Salesforce. Stayed there from 2020 over to February of last year, and have since made my way over to Microsoft now. So in a very similar position. No longer have the official title of technical architect. Today it's technical specialist, but very similar to the industry term or titling for our role, which is a sales or solutions engineer or solutions architect. So I've been doing that now since February of last year, specifically in the customer service area, and really looking forward to this interview question that you have for me here today.
Awesome. So this one again is a somewhat of a behavioral one, but you're going to get a little bit more into the technical weeds because we're going to be talking about a technical champion. So I'm going to put my interview hat on, got my interview beanie on, and we're going to jump right into it, Miles. So Miles, tell me about a time you successfully built up a technical champion at the customer's organization, and what techniques did you use to get them to become that technical champion?
Yeah, this is a great question, and one that it's, as a solutions architect, you are part of your job inside of a sales cycle is to become a trusted advisor. And part of being a trusted advisor is also building relationships with the folks that are actually in the trenches using whatever it is, the solution that you are planning or proposing to sell to them, right? So just some background information on, the question at hand, right? First off, building your technical champions inside of the customer organization that you're selling to is crucial in part of the selling process. I'd like to say that in almost every single win of mine, I had a champion involved, or I created a champion, right? It's not that one is just a champion to begin with. It's you build that relationship, and you show them why they should champion this solution that you're proposing. So typically in a sales cycle, and again, just kind of talking about high level context, and then we'll jump into the actual example here that I have. You're targeting higher leveled individuals. And what I mean by that is you're targeting titles like a director, VP, potentially the C-suite of an organization, because ultimately they're the ones who are going to be signing for, and calling the ultimate, decision on the said purchase. However, you have to also realize that these folks are not necessarily the ones that are going to be adminning it or using it on a day-to-day basis. They look at more so the metrics behind things, the why behind things, but not the actual how. So with that in mind, the individuals who are actually going to be the ones adminning it, or using it, can heavily influence the decision-making process for that director, VP, or CIO, CFO that's going to be signing this contract for the solution that you're proposing. And with that in mind, one thing that we typically do, or I typically like to do in a sales cycle, is do some sort of stakeholder mapping. And what that really is understanding who's at the table from the customer side. Aside from your directors, your VPs, and your C-level executives, you need to also understand who's managing, for example, in my case, as a customer service seller, who's managing the contact center, who is actually in the contact center, who's an agent. Can we talk to an agent? Can we talk to a supervisor? Can we talk to a director of customer care? We really want to get in touch with the folks that are going to be interacting with whatever the solution is that we're proposing on a day-to-day basis, because they have to ultimately like what it is that they're signing up for in order to champion this, right? So now that we've talked a little bit high level about, kind of my opinion or my viewpoint on what it means to build a technical champion and some of the background information that you have to do prior to, establishing those relationships, I can recall back to a sales cycle here that we recently won. Again, as a customer service seller, what I sell is a customer service solution. And in many cases, you can have deals that spin up out of RFPs, requests for proposals, where customers will send out, multiple, they'll have an Excel sheet, for example, of multiple requirements that they have. Could be pages of requirements that they'll send out to multiple vendors to kind of vet, who it is in the space that will meet their needs the best. And in this deal, this had spun up from an RFP, and we had initially responded to all of the questions as you normally would. But once we had submitted an RFP and spoken to the individuals who were responsible for procurement and for the RFP evaluation, we quickly realized that we needed to get in touch with the folks that are going to be actually interacting with, the result of this RFP, which is a customer service solution, right? And one thing to note out is, very easily you can do that as a solutions architect through things like LinkedIn. It's very easy to go on LinkedIn and look up, for example, some titles of the organization that you're looking at, whether it's, a customer service agent or customer service member representative. There's many titles that you can look for on LinkedIn. The other thing, or the other resource to look at, is go to the customer's website, check out their job openings, take a look at some of the titles that they use, and you can use that information to go and, search upstream in LinkedIn and see who exactly would potentially be in this decision-making process and who's actually the one that's using this solution. So once we did that in this case, of course, we would always identify our higher level executives, as ultimately they are the ultimate BDM, or business decision maker in this case. But we also made a note to reach out not only to the BDMs once we had a seat at the table, but to also inform them and let them know that we'd like to ideally speak to, a customer service agent or a customer service supervisor. One thing that's very effective in building these relationships is having that conversation with, in this case, customer service agents and a manager. But more specifically, if you have the opportunity to, and in this case we did, is to request for a reverse demo. So what I like to do is really understand, okay, we have this RFP out here today. We understand that you have a need for a new solution in contact center or customer service. Let's take a look at what you currently do today. Show me what it is that a typical day might look like as a customer service agent. Show me what a day might look like as a customer service manager. And you start to uncover a lot of key insights during these reverse demos, because this is where these individuals are really going to open up. They're going to show you what they like about the current solution that they have. They're going to show you what they don't like about the current solution that they have. They might even talk from past experience, other organizations that they've been to and how they've handled it at other places. And your job there, again, is to really build that relationship, gain that trust, and understand what it is that the users who are going to be interacting with this on a daily basis are missing. What is it that pains them? What is it that, the cliche phrase of keeps them up at night, right? So that that going forward. And as you start to keep this information in mind and build out your own solution for demonstration purposes, you now have a link to the individuals that are using the current solution today. So once, once reverse demos were performed, relationships were very quickly established there, because you're very easily able to relate and understand and empathize with where they're currently at. And the next step into building a technical champion is making sure that these individuals are included in every step of the process, right? So in many cases, I've seen sales cycles primarily focus around higher level executives or higher level titles, which ultimately makes sense to a certain extent, as they are a decision maker. But it's always great to validate with your technical champions that you're starting to build up. And what I mean by that is, now that you've shown me what your current solution does, let me show you what I'm thinking of showing for this demonstration. Tell me what you like about this. Tell me what I'm potentially missing. And you'll find that in a lot of cases, these individuals love to have these conversations because ultimately their lives are going to be made easier as a result of you paying attention, listening, and then showing what it is and how it is that they are going to have their lives made easier by the solution that you're proposing, right? So uh, throughout this cycle, we did validation in terms of demoing out or doing a dry run. Always recommend dry runs. Dry running with your customer, dry running with that technical champion. At that point, they might not necessarily be a technical champion. You might just have a solid relationship. But I can almost guarantee you that after you validate with them and take into consideration their feedback of your demonstration of what you are proposing out to them, you will very quickly see that they become the technical champion because they notice that you're listening and that you're implementing the ideas and the pains and you're solving for the pains that they've listed out to you throughout your demonstration and showing how your solution can help alleviate for the problems that they see on a daily basis. So in this cycle, we were very quickly able to gain over the trust of an agent, of a manager of a contact center, of this contact center. And again, reverse demoing with them, showing them and dry running with them prior to the actual demo day, making sure all of our ducks are in a row, that we are showing not only what upper management wants to see, primarily from an analytical standpoint. That's essentially what a lot of, the higher up the chain you go, the more analytics based you get, as percentages and numbers start to add up. But the deeper you go down into a specific workload like customer service, you also have to sell to the actual individuals and the admins of the solution that you're selling to. And by having them involved in these dry runs, by the time we did propose, or by the time we did actually demo to the customer, including these two individuals that we have now considered as technical champions plus business decision makers, the demo went very smooth. We were able to plan for and anticipate really any objections that there might have been as a result of listening to the feedback in the reverse demo and showing them what we have today. You very quickly learn that these individuals who are there to validate things with you when you're demoing out that dry run initially will let you know what their management might be looking for as well. And keeping that information in mind when you go and deliver your demonstration, you can make sure to check off every box so that you're not only winning over, your higher level executives, but I mean, at that point, you typically would have won over the actual individuals who are down administering and using the proposed solution that you have. So all of that's to say that deal did successfully close. Demo time came, and we were able to essentially, check off every box that they had from both a managerial perspective, from an agent perspective. Again, because we took and incorporated the feedback that we had all throughout the sales cycle, right? This is not something that we had planned for the day prior. This is something that we had planned for from the moment we were informed that we were in contention to win this RFP, and to ultimately be the solution provider for this contact center. So the last thing that I'll note here is that, building up these technical champions is very important in that they also keep you grounded and keep you in the loop as to what might be going on inside of an organization at any given time. A lot of times, a lot of discussions might happen behind closed doors, but in some cases, your technical champions will also give you a pulse check as to how well you did, as to what direction the business is leaning or what concerns there might be internally. And it's all things that you're able, again, to incorporate in the next touch point with the customer so that you are meeting them where they want to be met. So no, I just rambled on there for a good few minutes there,
No.
Mohammed. But yeah, and just to summarize it, last little phrase here: to build your technical champions is to really include the folks that are going to be using the system, whether they're adminning it, supervising it, using it. Make sure that you include them from the start. Make sure you listen. Ask for a reverse
Mhm.
demo if you can. Find out what they like today, what they don't like today, and incorporate that in what you're going to show them and solve for.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, Miles, I'll go ahead and give my feedback first, and then I'll hand it over to you, just because again, you did a ton of talking there. But I think the biggest call out I want to make, and it's mainly because I feel like this is the most underrated thing that you can do as a solution architect, solution engineer, sales engineer, consultant, whatever, the role is, getting that reverse demo. right?
Yes.
That's the best way that you can understand, hey, how are you doing this today, right? Because at the end of the day, most of us are visual learners. So if we can see how it's being done today, if they can show us what the process looks like, in your case, what is their existing customer service solution looks like, if they're trying to develop an app, right? That's something that I used to have to do a lot when I was, my previous employers. I'd ask them like, hey, this app's not built yet, but do you have wireframe screenshots that you can send over just so I can get an understanding, right? Any sort of, visuals that you can get, right, is always going to make it so much easier for you to be like, oh, I understand your process now. And then that really helps build that trust. And in this case, creates that technical champion. I can't tell you how many times, I've worked with a customer and they're an absolute fan, whether it was, at Salesforce or with Dropbox. And, they were like, really, I want to build the adoption within my company, right? I want to get these people on this product, on this platform, whatever it may be. So, it's always great to build those champions. And I think the insights that you gave can help a ton of people. And one, not just answering this question, but two, for the existing solution architects that are out there, like how they can go out and build that champion themselves. But I'll hand it over to you to give some feedback and thoughts on how
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think I answer from experience, right?
Right.
And I'm sure, I'm about 3.5 years into this type of role, and I'm sure that there's a lot more runway in terms of learning and, where my experience can continue to take me, right? So just speaking from my experience, to your point, the reverse demo is gold. Learning how a customer does what they do today, and what they like about it and what they don't. I mean, it just arms you with all the information that you need. And then secondly, if you have the ability or the chance to validate with the customer, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking of showing. This is what it's going to look like. Does this work? And seeing that kind of, that light bulb turn on where it's like, wow, okay, that's great. Yeah, today this is how we did it. I showed you this, earlier, and you solved for it already. It's ultimately, again, just being in lockstep with those
Mhm.
individuals, that, again, in my opinion, the folks that are actually touching the solution, they have that invaluable insight when it comes to what they're looking for. Ultimately, you have a BDM that's going to sign the check or sign the contract, right? But they're
Right.
they're not going to be logging into the system and using it the way that an actual agent would, in my case, or a supervisor would. So all that's to say, I mean, in terms of answering the question, I think it was solid. I know that I have a tendency to be somewhat repetitive sometimes, so I might have, covered a bullet point or two, multiple times. But overall, I like to start off with some background information, right, as to why it's part of, how to approach a sales cycle, what a technical champion is, kind of where to set your sights, and then go into that example of, how it worked out for me and how it continues to work for me. So,
Right.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Miles, for giving us such valuable insight into how to answer this question. And again, like I said, this is super valuable to existing solutions folks that are out there. If you like this video and you like the way that Miles answered this question, please make sure to give this a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, again, share this video with anyone who you think would find this to be valuable. And yeah, we'll hope to see you guys in the next one.